Today I have Philip Ma, who is the person responsible for the development team here at Sippy. He is very intimately aware of all the changes that are coming. He knows the roadmap for Sippy. He understands our development process, and he knows the benefits of what we are doing with the new versions of Sippy that are coming up. He is going to take us through details of what's coming up and what will be available. For now, I'll leave you with Philip so that he can start taking us through the agenda. And thank you for joining us. Philip.
All right, thanks, Fred. Thanks for joining us. My name is Philip. I'm the product manager at Sippy Software. Happy to speak to you about a couple of different topics that we have, some new features and some new products that we have currently in development. Just to give you a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. We'll talk about Stir Shaken and how that looks like with our current production 2020 version, as well as the outlook for Sippy 2021. We'll talk a bit about a heavily requested feature, SIP-TLS, and how we want to work that in our Sippy 2021 release. We'll talk about Amazon Web Services and what that looks like for us in terms of our AWS Softswitch product, as well as a new feature that we'll have for cloud backups. And then we'll move on to some further discussion on a topic many of you guys might have heard about, Golang B2BUA. And then we'll move into some discussion about some new product lines that we'll have worked out. And those will be really exciting to talk about today. We'll wrap up our conversation today with some news about some changes to our support plans. And I think Fred has a draw that he'll be doing at the very end of the presentation.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the emails that went out inviting you to join us at the webinar, we are going to do a draw for a surprise at the end. And hopefully you sent in the form and you're able to win something from us today. One of the things that we are very much focusing on, as you know in the past, is developing products that are going to deliver value to your operations and to your business. So the presentation today revolves around that. What additional value do our new products deliver? Okay, go ahead, Philip.
All right, so as we've talked about, we'll start with Stir Shaken. And we'll give you an idea of what the landscape will look like for Sippy 2020. That's our current production version available. And in Sippy 2020, we've partnered with One Call Connect. We've had some relationships with them for a number of years now. And we're proud to announce that they're our first integration with a partner who will sign calls on your behalf. The way this works is the B2BUA will send out a special invite message out to One Call Connect server. And in response, One Call Connect will respond with a 302 as well as the signature for the call. And the B2BUA will collect that signature and put it into an outgoing invite that will contain that signature. So for your calls that need to be sent out, we'll use One Call Connect services to facilitate those signatures for those calls. For this to work, you need to be a customer of One Call Connect, and I believe Fred has some web sign-up URL he can provide to you if you want to use their services for signing calls. This is a very well-tested solution with One Call Connect, and it'll be the only one we will support in Sippy 2020.
So that you know, we've, as Phil mentioned, we've been working with One Call Connect for a while. We know them well. We trust their technology. We are very much aware of the fact that they've got a solid technical team to provide support. We've decided to start with One Call Connect as the partner that provides the signatures for your stir shaken. And we are developing the ability to have other suppliers if you so chose. We've chosen to work with One Call Connect because we know them well, we trust them, and they are our go-to team for this particular integration. Go ahead, Philip.
Now, long term speaking, we wanted to give our customers the ability to sign locally and verify locally as well. So in the long term scheme of things, we'll be offering that in our Sippy 2021 release, where switch owners will be able to sign for calls locally on their soft switch and validate or verify the incoming calls as well. So Sippy is developing additional methods to handle this. For signing, the Sippy B2BUA will sign every invite using the private keys stored on that soft switch, and it'll collect the values saved for needed for stir shaken, and they'll go into the resulting signature. The CLI and CLD will be used to generate a signature. For verification, when a new call comes in, the B2BUA will parse out the signature from the SIP header and also collect the time. The B2BUA will take the URL from the signature and check to see whether or not the signature is valid. And then once the certificate is downloaded, the signature will be cached for a few minutes, just in case somebody hangs up and dials again. We'll have that available to speed up that transaction. So that's how we'll be able to handle both the signing and verification locally on that server. There won't be any third-party calls out to the world, but we'll be able to offer that service in our Sippy 2021 release.
So, as you know, this is something that is absolutely critical for you if you place any calls or you terminate any calls into either the USA or Canada. So, in light of that, we've worked extremely hard with One Call Connect to test their functionality to make sure that we're able to deliver something that is reliable and that works well. We work with One Call Connect, and if you wanted to use their service, you got to deal with them directly as far as setting up an account with them and making all the required payments and doing all of that. So in that relationship, really all we provide is the integration on the technical side and the referral over to One Call Connect. In letting you know that we've tested their technology. Other than that, Sippy doesn't have any more on that equation. Go ahead, Philip.
All right, we'll move the conversation over to SIP TLS. This is a feature that many of our customers have asked for. This is a pretty major change for us as it touches a number of different components that are really critical for the system. So our B2BUA needed some updates. The firewall policies needed to be able to accept some of the changes. API methods needed to be updated. There's a number of new database tables that needed to be created. So this was a pretty large change for us. So we're really happy to introduce the SIP TLS as part of our 2021 release. The SIP TLS traffic, it'll cover a number of different scenarios for sending traffic out to your vendors. It'll cover how accounts and customers will send their traffic. We'll be looking at how registration works with SIP TLS as well as on-net scenarios. The value added here is that there might be some vendors out there that require you to send SIP traffic over TLS and send it securely. And then on the flip side, there might be customers that require that traffic to be sent out securely. So this is a big improvement for us to be able to reach those markets. And it also opens up new possibilities with future integrations as well that require that traffic to be sent securely. Namely, I think Microsoft Teams is something that requires SIP-TLS to be in place. So those are things that we'll definitely be able to expand upon and develop out a little bit further in the future.
So Microsoft Teams integration is something that has come in as far as our request very often. So we are very glad to let you know that we've been doing all the work required to be able to start for you to start implementing this into your Softswitch and making sure that you've got this as part of your tool bag. Thanks, Philip. Go ahead.
All right, so we'll talk a little bit about some of the changes we have in around Amazon Web Services. Right now, we have a Amazon version of our Softswitch, hosted Softswitch, that's on AWS. Currently, that version of AWS runs on our 5.2 code base. We are making some builds that will support the very latest Sippy 2020 code. So this means that you'll have access to a lot of new features that we added as part of our 2020 software release. These will include features like multi-factor authentication, crack, some payment gateways, as well as all the different bug fixes, improvements, and other items that we added as part of our greater Sippy 2020 release. And if you aren't too familiar with the solution, our AWS solution is a great alternative to our shared hosted platform. What AWS offers you here is some greater control over your destiny. You have direct control over, or you can get direct control over your database. So if you needed to query for your CDR records, it's a database that's run strictly for you. So we could give you access to that without having to worry about compromising some of the performance for other customers that you might be sharing a system with. Same thing with maintenance windows. If you are on a shared hosted platform, you share the system with a number of other customers, and then based off of their traffic profiles, maybe the ideal downtime or maintenance windows might not be well suited for you individually. Being on that AWS platform and having an instance just running for you means that you can dictate what times work best for you for any upcoming maintenance windows that you might have. So you do get a lot more choice and agency in being able to manage your system. And with the new features added in AWS, you get a lot more value there as well.
So on the business side, so that you watching are aware, we always put forth those features and those requests that will allow us to create a roadmap for developing the software that keeps in mind at all times, how do we create more value to you? What is it that the Softswitch delivers now, either in functionality or by way of hosting, that we can improve on? So AWS is one of those things that has created a lot more value in terms of the hosting and what it delivers to you as far as being a Sippy software customer. As Philip mentioned, just the ability to be hosted on AWS allows you, with a small switch like 100 channels, to be able to do much more than you normally would be able to do on the bare metal servers that we provide typically. So this is the kind of thing that we're constantly working on. How do we deliver more to you? Thanks, Philip.
All right. So in addition to our AWS updates to our AWS builds, we are really happy to talk today about a new backup service that we'll have available. This will be cloud backups via S3. So this will be a module available to hosted customers and AWS customers. We will look towards adding this option for our Flex customers as well. But keep in mind, if you are a Flex customer or a purchased customer, you might also be interested in having a full-blown standby solution as well. So this solution is more geared towards the smaller customers that need some protections that aren't available as part of our standby solution. The cloud backups will be generated just like your database backups are available. But unlike storing them locally on the file system of your Softswitch, these backups will be automatically uploaded to a secure S3 bucket on configurable intervals. So you'd be able to select whether or not your backups are uploaded on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, or quarterly basis. Once they're uploaded, the backups will be encrypted, and you'll have a key to make sure that no one else will be able to download that data and decrypt that data and make use out of that data. So there'll be a couple of different layers of protection there to make sure that this critical data is stored securely. This has a huge advantage over storing the backups locally on that box or even uploading them to an FTP server. Amazon S3 has near infinite, pretty much infinite storage capabilities, and they have a number of different redundancies set in place. But if your backups are stored on that local server or to some FTP server also in the same data center, you're also very liable to a lot of like natural disaster type scenarios. Recently, we've seen some massive flooding out in Germany where an entire data center could be wiped out because of floods. Uploading your data off-site to Amazon's S3 servers gives you a tremendous amount of redundancy and protections against scenarios like that, where some fire or flood might wipe out any backups that you have.
So the cloud backups, as Philip mentioned, are something that we've developed in response to all those requests that we receive from those of you who have a smaller switch that perhaps cannot have or it makes no sense to pay for an additional license for redundancy. So there's no business sense in having a failover switch where you pay the additional license fee and all of that for a failover switch. So the cloud backups allow you to have a level of redundancy that you otherwise might not have. So again, we're developing these things to make sure that we provide and we cater to you upon your specific needs. Go ahead, Philip. Thanks.
Yeah, so the next topic that we'll talk about, there's been lots of discussion about this over the past several years about Go B2BUA. And we're really happy to talk to you a little bit more about that today because we're about to make some pretty big changes with Go B2BUA. Now, if you are familiar, the B2BUA component is a pretty central component to our Softswitch. It handles most of the business logic as calls are being completed between both ends of the call. We initially developed B2BUA using Python, and it's a very robust solution. If you are one of our Softswitch customers currently, you are using the Python version of B2BUA. You'll know that it's very reliable, it's very robust, it works great. We have no complaints about the Python version of the B2BUA, and we plan to support the Python version for a long period of time. The Python version was initially written at a time where Golang was not quite developed yet. But as we were developing our B2BUA, Golang became available as an option, and we looked at it and we decided that it was a good time to start rewriting the B2BUA using Golang. because it gives us some significant improvements in terms of call processing and CPU utilization. It gave us new tools to work with that Python just didn't really offer us. So while the Python version is very robust and works very effectively, B2BUA, on the flip side, gives us a little bit more advantages, particularly when it comes to scalability. So we've, both myself and our lead developer on B2BUA, last year we did a presentation talking about some of our testing performances and decision trees as to why we decided to go down this route of rewriting B2BUA. If you are interested, I would refer you to a YouTube video. Check out Building a Bigger, Better B2BUA. That's a pretty unique title out there. So if you search for that, I promise you will find the right presentation of us talking about the B2BUA. But today we'll give you some brief highlights as to the performance differences between the Python version and the Golang version.
So as Philip is going through these performance graphics, one of the things that you should pay close attention to is the fact that you can do more with what you currently have. So that is to say, your dollar is going farther and you're capitalizing much more on the equipment you already own. So one of the things that the team with Philip's spearheading is doing is constantly looking for ways to make the technology more efficient. So efficiency, as you know, means money. With us, what we're aiming for is always being more efficient in support, efficient in the software, efficient in the service. So Philip will show you some of the efficiencies we've created on the software side to make sure there are efficiencies on the hardware side, which means there will be efficiencies on the money side for you. Go ahead, Philip. Thanks.
So in this graph, we plot out CPU utilization here on the y-axis against calls per second. The blue line refers to what the performance looks like on using the Python B2BUA, and the red line reflects Golang. And then the ceiling for CPU utilization will be about 100%. This system, it's the same system. We just sort of run two-tailed tests here, and we see where things max out at. This system in itself is would probably manage about 50 CPS on its own, and maybe about 4,000 concurrent calls. So we're using the same hardware here in this system, and this would be maybe a medium-sized customer currently for Sippy Soft. But here you can clearly see the CPU utilization caps out maybe around 45, 50 calls per second on the system. And then when we're looking at it for the Golang version, the system will cap out at about 250 calls per second before you hit the ceiling for CPU utilization. That's a tremendous amount of CPS that you can put through at a given point in time. 5 times the improvement here for your CPU utilization.
So the number that Philip just said, in case you think you didn't hear it correct, it's 5 times. So you are going to be able to do 5 times more than before with the same hardware. Thanks, Philip.
So the other way to look at it is how quickly those calls get completed at. So call processing time is another really cool metric to look at that shows some big deltas here between what Python offers versus what Golang offers. So here at the low end, for how long it takes in milliseconds, we can see that the Python here on the blue line takes about 100 milliseconds for that call to complete. That's still pretty quick. And if you're dealing with 50, 60 calls per second, that's not bad either. But when we're looking at it to scale, the Golang B2BUA can complete that same call in about 3 milliseconds, which is a tremendous amount of difference. And when we get out to like the 300 calls per second range, that call processing time becomes quite significant in a difference from maybe just over half a second down to still 6 milliseconds for that call to complete. So that's a tremendous advantage over how quickly that call gets processed. So if you think about it, if it takes you 6 seconds to do a task over 650 seconds to do the same task, you could do a lot more in that span of time. So that's a tremendous amount of performance improvement that we get out of the Golang B2BUA.
So the performance improvement eventually means performance improvement in terms of money, right? So if you're running a Softswitch and you're putting traffic through at X, now you can put traffic through at Y. Profit X, profit Y. It's a simple equation. Thanks, Philip.
So to sum things up with the Golang B2BUA, you could really process more calls with your existing hardware. You could process calls faster with your existing hardware. And if you are one of those customers that have multiple soft switches out there, you'll be able to consolidate multiple systems onto a single server. Particularly if you're one of those high CPS customers that need extra systems to facilitate your CPS needs. If you are a smaller customer, you still might be able to utilize the Python version of the B2BUA. Your calls will still work at a good rate, and you might not need the full offering that Golang will be able to give you. But Golang definitely gives us a lot more options when we're talking about scalability. So if you need more performance out of your existing hardware, Golang B2BUA will be there for you when you need it.
So we cater to you if you got small needs. We cater to you if you got big needs.
Yeah, so this is a really big shift in what we could give you when it comes to scalability. And it gives us a tremendous amount of room to be able to do some really neat things with this Golang B2BUA. And with that, we'll start introducing some new products available to us. So Fred, I think you have a video that you want to show us.
Yes, I go runway 24, couple of 732 transfer grade 2, climb to flight at 160 level change, time zone 3 Bravo, runway 21. Direct from both direction to zero channel, reaching.
Roger, 3100, wind steady, FreightSwitch, ready for takeoff, over.
Passing 2,100 feet.
Echo 234, approach to identify radar control, climb 2, flight level 70.
Climb to level 7, Tokyo 234.
Which is 02. 310, routine mode of the RNF, Zero Tango Victor, Juliet Zero Victor, Lima India Victor.
Yeah, so there it is. We are formally introducing the FreightSwitch. The FreightSwitch is going to revolutionize how you can set up a network and the things that you can do with Sippy. So to all of those people who have previously asked about clustering and about big capacity, big CPS, here you go. We are delivering on the promises we've made to give you much more. Thanks, Philip. Go ahead.
Thanks, Fred, and we're really happy to talk a bit about. We're really happy to talk to you about FreightSwitch today. This is our first new product class specifically tailored towards high volume traffic. So as we've touched on previously, we have AWS as a solution for smaller scale setups and shared hosted for smaller scale. FreightSwitch is really intended to be high volume traffic. So if you think about Softswitch and FreightSwitch, you can think about sort of like transportation networks, which is where FreightSwitch comes from, gets its name. If you wanted to transport some items from New York to LA, for example, you could put your package on like a commercial plane that will also take passengers along with you. But there are specialized airplanes or transportation networks that are designed to carry a lot more traffic, and that's where FreightSwitch comes into play. FreightSwitch is optimized for high calls per second, and we'll be able to funnel a lot more traffic in it by doing things like stripping away a lot of the bells and whistles that Softswitch might have to be able to do that. FreightSwitch will be the first product that Sippy will offer that will make use out of the Golang B2BUA technology. This is the cornerstone to FreightSwitch and will be what drives the high capacity model that FreightSwitch will offer. It'll also come with a number of new special features that are unique that will make things a lot more efficient for you to operate. One of those changes, for example, might be a ZFS file system instead of Unix file system. ZFS gives us some better disk performance to take things like database backups and snapshots of your file system. And then FreightSwitch will also make some changes in that it'll remove some functionalities that are traditionally available in Softswitch that aren't needed for those high capacity customers. So if you are one of these customers, you won't need an IVR application. You might have a separate appliances that handles your IVR functionality, voicemail systems, calling card systems, are other things that we'll be removing from that Softswitch product to be able to facilitate a lot more traffic. So by removing those features, we could fill that airplane or fill that switch with a lot more traffic. This is a tremendous advancement in the technology, which really necessitated an entirely new product line that's available with some of the changes that we've introduced with Golang.
FreightSwitch is very exciting, and I've been with Sippy now for just over 2 years, and in the 2 years that I've been with Sippy, I've heard many customers talk about clustering and what clustering functionality is available. Philip is now going to touch on what we're planning to do with Sippy and the FreightSwitch to deliver on clustering solutions. Clustering, as you know, is going to take your business from X to Y plus Y. We are ready to deliver it to you, and with the FreightSwitch, you will get a product that will be solid, tested, and that will deliver a ton of value to you. Thanks, Philip. Go.
So with FreightSwitch, it gives us a little bit more ability to focus on a couple of other projects as well. Now, FreightSwitch is really optimized for delivering a lot of signaling and SIP traffic. But as part of that, there's a lot of different things that we could do with FreightSwitch that weren't possible just with Softswitch alone. Clustering being that. When we're talking about clustering, we want to be able to have different nodes that control different aspects of your business. Central to that, of course, will be handling of your SIP traffic, which is where FreightSwitch will come into effect. But on top of that, we'll also want to be able to manage different things in a different way. So we want to be able to have cluster control nodes that are in place, and that'll be able to manage the infrastructure, be able to set and manage your rates and tariffs and destinations, much like Softswitch delivers to you today. We also want to make sure that we have centralized CDR storage and balance data, so that each of the individual nodes will be able to aggregate its important data into central locations for each of the different nodes to be able to access. So we are currently working on our first prototype network of FreightSwitch nodes, cluster control nodes, and some of these databases. And this is a quick example of how we plan to organize our cluster. Let me just flip this pointer on here. Here we have at the center of everything, we have FreightSwitches, which will handle all your SIP traffic. We can add nodes as needed, remove nodes as needed, but this is quite a big opportunity here where we might have 2 or 3 FreightSwitch nodes. So if each of these nodes are handling maybe 600 calls per second, that's a huge, tremendous improvement over what's currently available with our Softswitch licenses. So we're talking like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, or 100 times the number of CPS that we could deliver as a result of FreightSwitch. We could add nodes as needed. And controlling all of this, we have cluster control nodes that we can set up in a master standby configuration. These cluster control nodes will be able to push out the rates, the routes, the tariffs, the destination sets, the vendor configurations, all the critical information that each of these FreightSwitches will need to know about in order to facilitate that traffic. And of course, these will be set up in a master standby configuration so that if one master node for your control node is unavailable, the standby will still be able to manage the individual FreightSwitches appropriately. And the nice thing is once the configurations are pushed out to FreightSwitches, the FreightSwitches will still be able to facilitate your call traffic independently. So if disaster strikes and your control nodes are offline, FreightSwitches on their own will be able to still facilitate and pass the traffic that you need. Each of the FreightSwitches will be connected to databases that will store your CDR data and your balance data. So each of the FreightSwitches will be able to adjust and track your calls based off of that. This will be important because as you add nodes, you want to make sure that each of the FreightSwitches share a common set of data to be able to analyze. Finally, each of your customers will be set up on primary nodes. So you might have one customer that's primarily using FreightSwitch A, and customer 2 that will be primarily using FreightSwitch B. But they'll also have configurations available and set up on each of the individual nodes. So in the event that FreightSwitch A is unavailable, customer 1 will still be able to put their traffic through some secondary FreightSwitch node. So this architecture is still being built. Like I mentioned, this is still a prototype stage. And once we do build up this infrastructure, we'll have notes on how we could apply this and apply this to a general plan on how this could be rolled out for all customers.
So the plan is to be releasing it very shortly after the fourth quarter of this year. We are doing this webinar and sharing this information so that you can internally start to question these things and to determine whether or not this is something that fits within your business requirements. Start to ask questions. Start to find out how we would put this into place within your network and start to work with us. So we are sharing this information so that you can begin the process of making sure that this is something that will work for you. Thanks, Philip.
So I'm going to leave this conversation up to Fred now to talk a little bit about how we have some changes planned for support.
Thanks, Philip. So, as you know, and I've done a number of these webinars recently, and over the last 1.5 or year that we've been doing these webinars, and much of the focus has been letting you know how the support team works, letting you know what our process is, how we hire people, the things that we take into account when we provide support, how we set priorities when it comes to support, the skill level that the team members have to have, essentially letting you know the ins and outs of standard support, how that works. Now, on the business side, I've had a number of requests from a number of customers that say, Fred, I know that that the standard support agreement delivers quite a bit and that the team is very well experienced and available 24/7, but I want more. I need more. So to those customers, in response to those requests, we have created what is going to be a professional and enterprise support structure. Those plans are going to be available for you to sign on at the end of September, first week of October. So pricing will be available. You can contact me directly and start to ask questions as to what's included and how it differs from standard support. I've got a comparison chart that I can share with you, and we can start the discussion. So we're very happy that professional enterprise support will be available. To give you a sense, in one of the previous webinars, I talked about some of the improvements that we are making on the standard support side. In order to do that, and in order to be able to offer professional and enterprise support, we've developed a structure internally for a support team so that we are now hiring L1 support team members to be able to work with the L2 support team to deliver a whole set of other expectations. Going forward, you will have the opportunity to choose whether you want standard support, professional, or enterprise support. So we are very happy about that. And with that said, we've come to the conclusion of the information session of the webinar. I hope that you got lots out of it. We are very excited, as I said, about everything that's going on with Sippy and all the new products that we are ready to offer and ready to deliver. If you have questions, you can certainly share those questions with me by email, Skype, WhatsApp. You've got many ways to reach out to us. I'm very happy to share more information with you in detail. For now, on behalf of Sippy and behalf of Philip Ma, we're very glad that you joined us. If you entered our contest, you'll be lucky. You'll be happy to know that we did the draw earlier, and unfortunately, not everybody won. But we do have a winner, and the winner is Darvin Suk from Helia Global. So, Darvin, you will win one of the cloud backup storages that Philip discussed earlier today, and we're very happy that you won. Darvin is a great customer, and like you, everybody that is joining us today, we have more information, more news coming up. Please stay tuned, continue to follow us, continue to watch us. Again, on behalf of Philip and Sippy, my name is Fred. We thank you for watching us, and we'll see you again.